Hello, people. Welcome back to this episode of the Tech of Tomorrow podcast, where we believe that the real tech of tomorrow are the humans driving the innovation and the companies that push that innovation forward. My guest today is Carsten Stöcker. He is the CEO of Spherity, a scalable decentralized identity cloud edge platform for the fourth industrial revolution. Their promise is to secure your digital identity. So I guess we are in the realm of a hot topic. And without further ado, I want to welcome our guest today, Carsten. Hello. Nice
Yeah,
to have
thank
you here.
you. Thank you, Sebastian. It's a pleasure being on your show. Looking forward to our interview.
Same. I read about Spherity, came across your profile on LinkedIn, and was really curious to talk about it. So let's get right into it, shall we? Perfect. I don't hear you for some reason.
Oh, you don't hear me?
Oh, yes. Now I
Yeah.
hear you. Good. So, tell me more about Spherity. How long ago did you start it? Are you the founder? Tell me about the company.
Yeah, my name's Carsten Stöcker. I'm a physicist. And as a physicist, I founded Spherity. And Spherity was founded end of 2017, so 7 years ago. And basically at Spherity, we look into decentralized identity solutions. That's a pretty interesting topic. Before I founded my company, I basically thought digital identity is kind of a bit boring. It's kind of solved. It's pretty kind of, let's say, competitive because a lot of people would like to solve digital identity. And to really understand the challenge, we have to go back to the days when the internet was invented. Yeah. So it's a time when the internet was invented and that at CERN and at some other institutions, academics and researchers started to exchange data. They basically exchange data in a plain data format on a protocol, and then they invented the HTTP protocol that we all see in our browsers. Yeah. And the problem was that the data have not been encrypted, so everyone could kind of intercept the data and kind of, let's say, follow the internet traffic. This is not good. And people at this time thought, hey, we need to encrypt our data and we need to invent a sort of digital identity because I don't know when I communicate with someone, let's say from Switzerland in US, am I really kind of communicating to my colleague, let's say at the MIT in Boston, or am I communicating with a malicious actor in whatever, in Germany? And for that reason, people kind of started to think, hey, we need to fix the identity problem. In terms of, there's a lot of cryptography involved. So cryptography is basically when I start to encrypt data, or I would like to give data an identity, a fingerprint, that's being called hashing. And there's also cryptography involved when it comes to digital signatures. I basically sign my data like a paycheck or like a contract or like a membership agreement. Yeah, I sign my agreement, I sign the contract with my physical signature. And the idea is to do this in the digital world, and then as digital signatures are being involved. People started to working on this. They invented some mechanisms to do this with emails, to sign them, to encrypt them. They called it pretty good privacy, but this solution didn't scale. In terms of encrypting data, when I connect in the internet to my online bank, so this is also very important because I must connect, I must encrypt the data. Otherwise, everyone can kind of follow and read my online banking transactions. Yeah. The thing is that the protocol we all use today, it's called HTTPS. S means secure. And when we go to online banking, we put https://sparkasse.de or something like this, or whatever, deutschebank.com or abmambro.nl, whatever. And so the S means it's secure, it's encrypted, and it's kind of authenticated. My browser understands it and knows he's talking to a computer system that belongs to an internet domain, let's say deutschebank.com. And this internet domain is really controlled by Deutsche Bank, and the server belongs to the Deutsche Bank internet domain. So we basically assume it's Deutsche Bank. So it's an encryption. The thing is that the encryption needs to be standardized. And this was around 2000 when people can put the standards in place to encrypt the data. So from a cryptography perspective, we first encrypt data. The next step, you would like to sign the data. Yeah? The problem of signing data is not yet solved at scale. Yeah, so it's still an open topic from the original first days of the internet. And I think, and this is a kind of problem we are solving. And why is this important? Because there's a lot of manipulation of data. People kind of try to cheat. Let's say there's a big kind of, let's say, legal discussion. I'm tampering with my data. I change them. If they are signed, I cannot change them anymore because then the digital signature is broken. And in addition to this, we have AI coming. With AI, we are flooded with data. Then identity is even more important. So we can talk to fake CFOs. So we get fake data from BMW. We get fake data from Deutsche Bank. We cannot distinguish anymore what is right, what is wrong. And in this world, we need digital identity that with cryptography, I can check where the data is coming from Deutsche Bank because I check the digital signatures in simple terms. So it's basically the problem of AI, but then also and of people manipulating data, malicious actors, and then also cyber warfare, because bad actors and cyber warfare we see it everywhere now. Yeah, I think it's Chinese that are doing Chinese cyber agencies and Iranian cyber agencies that try to manipulate kind of the election process in the United States with disinformation. It's Russian cyber agencies that try to get in our critical infrastructure. And then to distinguish what's right, what is wrong, we need identity and digital signatures. So it's really kind of three threats coming together. It's basically malicious actors, or let's say dishonest companies, dishonest people. We need digital signatures. It's the AI, we're flooded with data, it's cyber warfare. And then last but not least, when we have digital identities, can sign contracts, can log into, you can open a new bank account in seconds, do a contract over the internet, kind of onboard with a new e-commerce provider seamlessly in seconds or milliseconds. This is also very important for the next level of digitization for our citizens in terms of commerce, but also in terms of government processes, because government process also needs to be brought to the next level. And then digitization, digital identity is a requirement for this. And that's a bit what we address. And at Spherity, we address is not for citizens. We don't do much citizen identity. So we do enterprise identity for regulated industries, for smart cities, for Industry 4.0, for supply chains. And in addition to enterprise identity, we do product identity, which is being called digital product passports. That's another regulation. Maybe we deep dive a bit on regulation and what this means and why we need technology kind of to automate compliance with regards to regulation. And that's what we do at Spherity, enterprise identity, digital product passports for regulated industries. And this is a lot of fun because a lot of technology is involved and a lot of exciting use cases we address.
Yes, I see that. Let's talk more about digital product passports. What is that exactly?
Oh, a digital product passport. If we go back a little bit in history, then maybe 10 years ago, no one spoke about, or even 20 years ago, no one spoke about digital product passports. People spoke about digital twins, yeah? And digital twins is also something, it's pretty kind of, let's say, unclear term, because some people understand when they talk about a digital twin, let's say a simulation of an aircraft before the aircraft is being built, yeah? So other people in the aerospace industry, they talk about a jet turbine. I have a digital twin of a jet turbine. I know this jet turbine was being mounted to specific aircraft and now get a lot of IoT data about performance of the jet turbine, about whatever behavior, fuel consumption. And when I have the data, then I can improve maintenance schedules. Yeah? And do predictive maintenance. I can increase product safety of the entire airplane. And that's a bit what people understood as digital twins. And now with new regulation called Eco Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. So eco design means we have to make much more, we have to design our products from a much more ecological perspective. Sustainable means it needs to be all sustainable. We need to keep the critical raw materials in a circular value chain. We need to avoid emitting greenhouse gases. We need to avoid destroying biodiversity in our environment. So it's really about kind of making the world a sustainable world where we are kind of not crossing planetary boundary every year, but where we are consciously living in a world that that can deal with our human footprint. So eco-design, sustainability, and product means we would like to have assertions, which means kind of, let's say, some information about the product, that the product is really, really, from an ecological perspective, designed well and is sustainable. One example is the product carbon footprint. Yeah. So soon products will have a so-called product carbon footprint, which means a manufacturer of a product must calculate and then disclose what is the carbon dioxide that was being emitted during, let's say, extraction of raw materials, transportation, processing, manufacturing, and distribution. So the entire supply chain. So what is the total carbon footprint of the product? And that's called a product carbon footprint. Yeah. And with the eco-design for sustainable products, it's basically a law from the European Union, and that's putting obligations to manufacturers to disclose where's the material coming from, what materials are in the product, what is the product carbon footprint, was there labor rights being properly concerned, are there child labor issues, so all these kind of things, so that consumers can make a conscious decision. So whether it's a good product or it's a bad product, for our environment and for our society. And within this regulation, the people who wrote the law basically invented the so-called digital product passport, which means I have a product, which let's call it a QR code. I scan the QR code, and then I go to the digital representation of a product. We have the full provenance, the full life cycle, the product carbon footprint of it, so that I can make conscious decisions and have full transparency about the product itself.
Okay. Do you have a lot of competition in the market currently?
Yes, I think people think this is $1 trillion market or $100 billion market. It's huge. And this type of digital identity, when we talk about next level internet, next level industry 4.0, which means the internet for our entire industry that's connected, internet for smart cities, then we must have a secure digital identity solution. For that reason, so digital identity is the foundation, it's a cornerstone of every kind of next level digital solutions, digital internets. For that reason, we have huge competition. And that's kind of, I think there are two kind of, let's say, challenges we have to tackle as I have to tackle as an entrepreneur first. It's called a red ocean market. Yeah. So red ocean market means there's huge competition and everyone wants to whatever. The problem here is we have a red ocean market with market size almost zero. Everyone is expecting this will be $100 billion market. There's Gartner. Gartner is a market research company. Forrester, another market research company. Accenture and others that forecast what we do will be a huge market. So identity plus some business logic for a given business domain to solve a given problem. So in total, it will be a huge market. For that reason, a lot of companies are going in this market. So it's red ocean, a lot of companies, huge competition, market size is zero. But there's one other aspect. The taxpayer is heavily investing in this technology in Europe. It's multiple billions that are being invested. So there's a lot of research projects, multiple billions research projects. All big companies have not one research project. The big DAX companies, they have 5, 7, 8, 10 different research projects getting a lot of money from the taxpayers in Europe and Germany, which means the mindset of most companies is, yeah, let's do more research. And when we have research projects, everything is free. Why should I pay for a commercial company to do a project on this subject? It's all free of charge. Yeah. So I think that's from a commercial perspective. So this is my day job, to find customers, projects, business cases, value propositions. So where people apply the technology today with the business value for our customers that they pay us. Yeah, this is pretty tough. The second challenge is it's an ecosystem technology, which means let's assume I give an example. I develop software for shoe shops in the internet, yeah. Then I can go to one shoe shop, I sell it. I go to the next shoe shop, maybe I don't sell it. Then I go to the third shoe shop, I sell it again. I can set one by one by one. Yeah, that's very simple from a sales perspective. So when it comes to digital identity and these technologies, it's primarily an ecosystem technology, which means there's only business value in it when a minimum amount of people, that's called a minimum viable ecosystem. So a minimum amount of people adopt the technology. So when they start connecting among each other, so that then they can use the technology and then they can harvest the business benefit in terms of process automation, cost reduction, compliance automation, digital innovation, more innovative products, which always means a minimum, or let's say a critical mass of companies, minimum viable ecosystem, or an early majority, however you call it. So there must be a reasonable number of companies adopted, and that's being called a hen and an egg problem. This is what it basically can.
Mhm.
And if you're in let's say a country, an industry where people are not first movers, then the hen and egg problem is a little bit difficult. So we mitigate this. So the first one we mitigate with a lot of business domain knowledge, going for clear business cases. The ecosystem thing we mitigate by using technology and to develop product solutions that make already sense for one company, even if it's an ecosystem technology. So we find business cases and we find something where companies can start to adopt it today with a business value, and they don't need to wait until anyone else has to adopt it. Yeah. So this is how we address these two challenges.
Fascinating. Mm, how big is the company? Employee numbers?
So we have almost 30 people, yeah. So we have very experienced people that know the technology for up to 25 years, or let's say technology is evolving, but technology was 25 years old, 20 years old. My colleagues know this, colleagues that know the business domains, such as automotive supply chains, pharmaceutical industry, energy industry. So we have a nice blend of people, uh, software developers, product managers, project managers, a little bit of salespeople, and then also marketing, HR, finance, and accounting. So we're a small company with all different kind of departments, almost 30 people, and that's 30.
What would you say is the biggest challenge of being a leader in a company of 30 people while also being an entrepreneur that has to solve a red ocean problem?
Oh, I think so. What we're doing, so all of us would like to deliver an impact, yeah. So we are not doing this for just making money or for having kind of nice project. I think the majority of my colleagues, if not all of the colleagues, they really would like to make a difference in this world, yeah. Because technology is applied to make things more secure, more safe, to do a transition to circular economy, to avoid carbon emissions. So everyone is motivated in terms of delivering an impact, yeah. And I think this is what I was my co-founder, we built it. So an impact company. What we do, so we also have a market in the United States, is about patient health. Yeah. So everyone understands if you can make if you can improve the health of patients by kind of avoiding that counterfeit fake products are entering the pharmaceutical supply chain, that's a good cause. Yeah. And in terms of leadership, I think it's different, kind of leading so building a company first with a purpose that delivers an impact, and leading such a company is also different because people are super motivated. Yeah, I think the challenge is it's a bit as a focus. Yeah, because no one in our company knows in terms of this red ocean market. So in which tiny niche market, in which domain is the technology picking up first, so we can accelerate there and generate more revenues, doing more sales. This is not quite clear now. And I think there's a little bit of uncertainty involved and kind of, let's say, being a leader in a company with motivated people, but some uncertainty involved. I think that's a challenge, but we are also venture capital financed. the other challenge is also to kind of to manage expectations of our investors. Yeah, I think that's a triangle. Our workforce, so we have highly motivated, super skilled workforce, then investors, and then the market, which is red ocean, to kind of to balance all these three elements in a kind of a leadership. That's called a leadership triangle. Yeah, that's 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 a bit a challenge. And I mentioned the technology is an ecosystem technology. The World Economic Forum was talking about ecosystem leadership, yeah. And this is interesting. I personally love ecosystem leadership. And ecosystem leadership means everyone knows no one can solve it alone. We have to agree on standards, on procedures, on products, on processes, whatever. We have to agree that we would like to reduce carbon emissions, yeah, or we have whatever. This has to be done in an ecosystem. And what's interesting, an ecosystem leader the first priority is to kind of to dedicate his workforce, his time, his skills to the goals of the ecosystem, yeah, which means the second priority are the goals of the company. And this is the leadership discipline, ecosystem leadership, that is, from my perspective, unique. There are not many ecosystem leaders because if you try to be successful in to solve a problem that requires consensus in an ecosystem, and you only follow your own kind of priorities, follow through your own benefits, and you try to destroy all your partners and whatever, yeah, make sure they don't make money, you make money alone, then you're not successful, then you're not kind of accepted in the ecosystem, yeah. On the other hand, if I kind of if I'm too altruistic as a leader in terms of following through the goals of the ecosystem, then I don't make money, yeah, and then my shareholders or whoever will punish me because I don't make money, and this is pretty interesting in terms of how to balance this kind of, let's say, being an ecosystem leader and being a good leader for the company. This is quite a nice challenge. It's a lot of fun. You learn a lot. And in Germany, we need much more ecosystem leaders because most of the problems we have to solve globally, requires ecosystem leadership skills, and we need more ecosystem leaders and people that know how to balance kind of objectives, kind of to solving a bigger problem with a lot of peers, doing collaboration with other companies, with government agencies, with interest groups, standardization groups. So it's multi-stakeholders involved in this ecosystem. Doing this on the one hand side and being a successful business leader. And this is, I think that's a nice leadership challenge. Yeah.
Do you think in the future there will be more and more ecosystem leaders? Will that concept of ecosystem leadership gain popularity, or will it stay like niche?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think humanity needs ecosystem leaders also on a political, let's say, going a little bit kind of, let's say, higher in the food chain. Yeah. If you think about politics, global politics, humanity can only solve it together. That's kind of similar challenge to what I described. But on the other hand, we see authoritative leaders in Hungary, Turkey, Russia, Donald Trump. I think I think humanity is really at a crossroad, yeah. Either the authoritative leaders, they basically kind of, let's say, they get the power, and Vladimir, and they, but yeah, and I think then there will be kind of a world where climate change does not play a role, where minorities don't play a role, where migrants, no one cares about migrants anymore, yeah. This will be a pretty awful world. Vladimir Putin once said at the World Economic Forum that his prediction for the future is that there will not be kind of people coming together trying to solve problems globally. He was basically saying this, quote, we will soon have a war, everyone against everyone else. Yeah. And I think if we don't have this kind of leadership, building consensus, and also striking fair decisions, because we have the global south where people need to participate more in global economy. Then we have a Western communities where people would like to consume. But on the other hand, we have to degrow our economy to consume less, to be more kind of environmental conscious. So if this type of leadership will not be successful, I think then not soon from now, yeah, this sounds a little bit dystopian prediction for the future, but the future can be very, very tough, that everyone is fighting against everyone else. And this is what ordinary humans don't want. But let's say authoritative leaders, they won't have this. And this is for let's say for politicians trying to solve these type of problems globally with a lot of consens, making sure everyone reduces carbon emissions and so on, treats the oceans correctly, reduces plastic pollutions, solves the human migration problem, um, protects biodiversity, protects forests. This is a huge problem, yeah. With all the planetary boundaries kicking in, all the tipping points that are really kind of doing large scale change on a planetary scale, so that can destroy a lot of the living species on Earth. I think that's all difficult. Yeah. But bottom line is we need more consent builders. We need more, yeah, I call it authentic leaders, ecosystem leaders that would like to improve the state of the world, that would like to make a real impact, and then humanity can prevail and solve the solutions. But this all comes back to leadership on all levels, yeah, on local levels, such as my startup, but all on the global scale, on global politics. It's all over the board.
How do you think we train those leaders, at least in business? How do we create more entrepreneurs that think that way?
I think in companies, people talk about not entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs. I don't see much training. The World Economic Forum was basically pushing pushing the definition and the narrative of ecosystem leadership and the fourth industrial revolution and all the challenges we have to solve, the poly crisis. So we're living in a poly crisis. Humanity have to solve it. We need leadership to do this. I have not seen a single training on ecosystem leadership. I think what I see that people from other companies that are engaged in these ecosystems, they think they are good system leaders, but from my perspective, they're not good ecosystem leaders. They're not trained. They're not kind of, let's say, focusing on solving a problem for the greater good. They're only interested in making more money shorter and making sure they control the technology and this, and they define the roadmap. It's their invention. It's not the invention of all of them. And in some ecosystems, these people talk about extreme collaboration. And this is what I find very funny, because when the people talk about extreme collaboration, and it's basically, yeah, there's not an authentic collaboration. People are kind of fighting each other, and there's a lot of politics involved. Every time when there's politics involved, then it's not a good sign that people are authentically collaborating. And from my perspective, the question is basic. The answer is there is no ecosystem leadership, or not enough at all. And it should be about authentic ecosystem leadership. And that's, I think, for humanity, it's of utmost importance that we have more authentic ecosystem leaders. Yeah? And there's much more training we need. Yeah.
So, do you want to play a role in this in the future, or where do you see yourself and Spherity in, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. So we are building technology to digitize value chains, to make sure we have a digital solution for the transition to circularity, for circular supply chains. So which means we have a closed loop of raw material, of critical raw material. We avoid the emission of carbon dioxide. I think this is where Spherity plays a role, to develop the digital backbone, the digital, whatever, the digital internet, digital layer, so that this works. And the European Union is saying, if we don't solve this digital problem, and for example, identity for products such as digital product passports, if we don't provide this technology, we don't have a digital backbone. If we don't have a digital backbone, we cannot measure anything. We cannot enforce our laws. We can't do anything. So for the transition to a circular economy, yeah, we need a digital layer to do this, and this is where Spherity plays a role in 5 to 10 years, which means we're contributing to building out this digital backbone for the circular economy, providing identity, providing digital product passports, yeah, to make sure our supply chains are getting more and more sustainable.
Let's talk about regulation. You mentioned that a couple times, and since the AI Act came out, there has been a lot of debate about regulation in Europe and about the extent to which regulation is making Europe stay behind. How do you see it? Do you think Europe is over-regulated? Are we putting an obstacle into innovation?
Yeah, I think I, th I think short term the answer is yes, yeah. Because when the AI Act, the result of the AI Act is that certain companies, Apple, I think even Canon, they're doing photo cameras, and these companies they postpone their product deployment to Europe because they're not quite sure how to be compliant with the AI regulation. Then there's other regulations such as product carbon footprint, cybersecurity, anti-money laundering. Yeah, this all puts burden on us. I think we definitely need the regulation. If we don't have them, everyone continues to pollute. So we can AI use for much more worse cause, evil cause, and there's a lot of money laundering possible to finance terror acts, to finance drug trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, and it's all these kind of things. So for that reason, we have to put regulations in place, yeah. And if we don't do this, I think we have much, much, much more problems. The problem here now is, and that is where we're talking about, so I call it a policy life cycle. Because we're living in a poly crisis, which means we have a lot of challenges to solve. And then we put for each domain, for each category, we put new regulations in place. All of these new regulations happening at the same time. So which means we get a tsunami of regulations and people and the companies, and I know this from my daily work, it's so much regulations, people cannot even put a single Excel spreadsheet or table, a list in place to have a list from 1 to n with all the new regulations coming up in the business domain. It's unbelievable. People call it tsunami of regulations. On the other hand, we need the regulations because it's for the greater good, it's for good cause. And now the problem is, let's go back from this macro view. A lot of regulations, we have to deal with it. Are we able to do this? We need technology to do it. If I look just in one regulatory domain, I think the big problem is that people do regulation when they don't think about implementing processes and technology to enforce the regulation, and then process in technology when the regulation is in place, that people kind of pretty much automate compliance to the regulation. And when I would like to automate compliance, I have to go on a transaction level. I have to do it at scale. If I do it with paperwork, with auditors, with accountants, and with PDF files, then it's impossible, it's expensive, it's slow to follow through the regulation. And there's plenty of space to cheat, yeah, to have misleading assertions and to bypass the regulation and to make sure your product looks good, but it's not. And for that reason, you need digital technology. And I think the challenge is that when people putting a policy regulation in place, that they don't think about the life cycle. I have put it in place, it will be enforced in 2 years. And then when I define the policy regulation, I must think about a digital solution, how to implement, how to automate, how to enforce the regulation when it's effective, yeah. And this digital backbone is missing. And this is, from my perspective, a very big problem, because when I put a lot of regulations in place, even a tsunami in place, and I don't have a digital backbone kind of to automate all of this, then there's a huge risk that people don't adhere to the regulation, which means there's a lot of fraud. Then there'll be a lot of debates, and people say, oh, and people will try to postpone, discuss it's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. And when this happens, then the credibility of the policymaker is severely damaged because they put a policy in place, a policy that can never be followed through because there's no technology, yeah, to follow it through. And for that reason, we always advise policymakers when they put a regulation in place to think about when the regulation is effective. So what is a digital solution to fully automate it? To automate compliance, to automate verification, to automate enforcement, so that the cost of compliance is reduced to an absolute minimum because of digital technology. And I think it's really a lot of regulation, tsunami, no technical backbone. And then people will complain it's impossible. Then they say we don't need it. We cannot do business anymore. When people are losing jobs and they say, hey, let's get rid of all the regulation. We need to vote for right-wing people because right-wing people promise to scale back the entire regulation. And this is a huge risk, yeah, that there's a lot of kind of push towards this movement, and then that there's a switch in kind of political values and technology will be scaled back. Policymakers will lose reputation because there's no digital backbone. I think this is a risk, so we have to be aware of. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people kind of working to make this happen, to get the digital backbone in place, the transition to circular economy, to automate processes, to transition to Industry 4.0, to smart cities, to stay competitive on a global landscape with China, with US. Then we have also to up the game to get to the next level for digitization. So there's a huge number of people working on this to solve the problem. So there's hope, yeah, that we will solve the problem. As Spherity, we also contribute to the solution of the problem. And for that reason, there's hope. We only have to make sure that's kind of, let's say, more support to get it done, yeah, faster.
Would you say that our policymakers have the best interest of European business owners in mind? Because I do not have that feeling, but I'm always curious to see if maybe I'm just too distrustful of policymakers.
Well, I think they have the best interests. They have the best interest from a macro perspective in mind, yeah. Like you have to balance a lot of interests, yeah. Businesses, citizens, the environment, fair relationships to trade partners globally. So there's a lot of different interests, yeah. I think the European policymakers that try to strike a fair balance, but of course, when then businesses are falling behind, then they claim, hey, you don't, you're not acting in our best interest. Let's change something. I think this is natural, especially when we have on a global scale, let's say US under Trump, they scaled back a lot of regulations. They claim, hey, we have our business, the interests of our business in mind. We scale back, we unleash the full power, we reduce any regulatory requirements. You can pollute the environment. And what Donald Trump is saying, drill, baby, drill. Yeah, he's basically making promises on his campaign trail that he will kind of unleash all barriers kind of to drill more oil and to burn more oil, to pollute our planet faster. And this is a big problem because then business owners in Europe can say, hey, in US they're allowed to do this, we're falling behind. It's because of the politicians, because they don't have our best interests in place. So I really, really think that politicians in Europe, of course, not everything is perfect, but over the last years, they really try to strike a good balance between different objectives, yeah, business owners, citizens, environment, global trade partners, the oceans, forests, living species, all this kind of stuff. And for that reason, I think it's fair. But if you compare it to maybe China, to US, to Russia, then it's difficult to stay competitive as a small business owners. I think that's also clear.
So all in all, in let's say 8 years, as European businesses, we will be able to compete. Are you optimistic on that side, or are you more like conservative?
I think in 8 years, yes. I think we have to go through the valley of despair now, especially if you look to Germany, the automotive industry, the tier one suppliers, they scaled back operations, cut a lot of jobs. The OEMs are now starting to cut jobs, to close entire manufacturing locations. This is what you see. I think we're now going through the valley of despair. But in 8 years from now, I think we are much, much better positioned than today. On the other hand, yeah, it will be a valley of despair. What does it mean for the jobs if people are flexible? I think there's a lot of demand for skilled workers. People can switch jobs if they're flexible. Yeah, and this is also then a big push for small, medium enterprises because they're looking for skilled workers. Their new business can flourish, can develop. But I'm pretty sure for the next years is a bit of a valley of despair. But in 8 years from now, we are much, much better positioned than today. I'm very optimistic.
I like the optimism. Listen, what are which clients are you targeted? Which industries do you target as Spherity? Who do you serve?
Yeah, we serve pharmaceutical industry. Then we serve a bit the energy sector, automotive supply chain sector, consumer goods. So as mentioned at the beginning, so technology is now kind of starting to being adopted. So we have some business domain knowledge, and then we position our focus on domains where people start to adopt the technology. And for that reason, so we are working with pharmaceuticals, energy, automotive, supply chain, consumer goods. So we are targeting all of them. It's a little bit dilutive, but because of the kind of, let's say, the market development itself, so this is a good strategy, yeah, to have to not depend on one industry and then suddenly, oh, they stop the effort to push something forward, to have a little bit of a portfolio. Technology is pretty much the same and similar in all these different sectors. For that reason, from technology perspective, it's not the biggest deal. It's more from a sales perspective to make to be able to address, to identify and address a value proposition in different sectors. That's yeah. But this is our magic sauce at Spherity so that we can do this actually to gain customers and continue to grow.
Yeah, when working with clients, usually I tell them there's two ways of position a company. You can go very specific, serve one industry and specialize in that, and that's great positioning. However, if you are very clear and very specific about your value proposition, you can also go not horizontal, but a bit more vertical and serve several different branches with good results because your value proposition is not industry dependent.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think when I talk to venture capitalists, they don't believe so much in the horizontal play, yeah, like I do technology for all of this. So they believe in a clear vertical kind of focus, yeah, because the verticals are so big, yeah. Pharmaceuticals, energy, banking. I forgot to mention the banking. It's so big. If you have your product market fit in the vertical, then go for it and scale it. And this is our strategy as well, yeah. When we find a product market fit that fully scales, then we put our eggs in this basket and
Mhm.
fully pull through this. And here, I think we are nicely positioned because we are able to manage enterprise identity, this digital product passport, combining both enterprise identity, digital product passports. And with the digital product passports, we can go to a couple of domains. We have good attention and reputation in different domains, and this is what we capitalize on the sales side. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with venture capital is that, of course, they want to make safe bets and they want to have a return on their investment. So going vertical and going very deep into a
Yeah.
specialization and niche is safer. Of course, there's always exceptions. Like best practices are best practices for a reason. They
Yes.
don't mean
Yeah.
they apply to everybody.
Yeah.
So how do you envision Spherity growing? Where do you want it in a few years? How big, or more or less, would you like to stay as you are right now and just focus not on massive growth?
Think we might be, so I think the idea is to grow because, as mentioned, it's a red ocean market. It's a potentially super huge market, even market size is small at the moment. And for that reason, these fully digital markets, you have to have a critical size, yeah. And because the market is so big, you have to grow, yeah. And I think in whatever, how many years, 5 years from now, yeah, I think the objective is to kind of to grow by factor of 10 the workforce. And this clearly depends on our ability to find the right niches, product market fits, and then scale the business, yeah.
Will you ever focus on individual identity instead of enterprise identity, or will you stay on the enterprise side?
No, we stay on the enterprise side because competition on the human identity, citizen identity, individual identity side is much more worse, yeah. And and the business case for this type of identity is also unclear.
Mhm.
So what's the business case? Providing identity for humans when the government is issuing an identity card. The government's making sure you get a digital version of the identity card on your phone. So what's the business model? Yeah, then you have to clearly dig much deeper in the business models, how to make money when people expect that digital identity shall be for free. Yeah, of course, maybe you develop a solution where you can add membership credentials for your gym. You'd have a digitized version of your gym membership, but a digitized version that's cryptographically verifiable. But do we really need this? And then it comes back to driver licenses or business to government use cases. So for us, yeah, for us, it's a different animal, and we feel much more comfortable because in our DNA and background skills experiences that we understand a couple of industrial domains, and for that reason, we're much more comfortable in working in industrial domains and not going for citizen identity in general.
I like that. One
Yeah.
of the last things I would ask you is you mentioned smart cities before, like at the beginning. How do you see the future of smart cities being? Will that be a preponderant reality? How will that look like?
Oh, I think first in the smart cities that have kind of an infrastructure, we have a fleet of autonomous vehicles that are electric and shared. Yeah? Because if I now go in the cities, I see hundreds, thousands, whatever cars parking in a parking lot and not moving. Yeah, they're occupying space, they are burning fossil fuels. And I think in a sharing economy where asset and also sharing economy, circular economy are pretty close to each other. Because in circular economy, you would like to increase the utilization of asset,
Mhm.
that you don't build 10 cars sitting in a parking lot. You just build, or maybe 20 cars, you just build one car that's utilized by a couple of people. That's much more resource efficient. And this is what I really see. I think this autonomous vehicles and I think linked then to a smart grid, because when I have the vehicles, I have the sector coupling between mobility and the electricity grid. There's much more renewables in the and heat pumps and these kind of things in the smart cities. And when I have this infrastructure, I go the next step, and there's access control to buildings via digital identity. There's on-demand delivery. Maybe you have some drone deliveries. Yeah, that's a bit how IoT building automation. There's a lot of IoT. Maybe I would assume, not sure about Germany, there's much more security surveillance, yeah, to make cities a much more safer place. And this comes from my perspective altogether in terms of smart cities. But I think mobility and energy will be the key driver of making our cities smarter.
Also, surveillance is a complicated topic, privacy-wise
Yes,
and
yeah,
regulation-wise. So it's
that's
gonna be harder to
complicated.
implement.
Yes. But if you look in a Tesla has, I don't know how many cameras. I think Tesla has at least 6 cameras, a new Tesla, and surveilling everything.
That's true. I think depends on how you frame that surveillance is how people get scared.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you have
Absolutely.
cameras on you wherever you walk, probably it's could be a little bit more concerning. But yes, it's a complicated topic.
That's a complicated topic. And yeah, on the other hand, do we need more safety security? Probably yes. I forgot, let's say, new ways of farming, yeah, and food supply. I think smart cities might want to kind of to adopt, let's say, this vertical farming. I think the business case, the environmental footprint, the metrics are coming together. I think I know a couple of people that would look like to do vertical farming, but then they didn't see a business case for them. But in smart cities, we have more vertical farming. Maybe we have 3D printed food and don't need so much cattle, which is also kind of, let's say, providing to methane emissions. I think this also belongs to each other. Yeah, let's see. Smart cities. Yeah.
Yes, it's gonna be an interesting future. Listen, I want to be
Yes.
mindful of your time, so I'm gonna ask you the last questions before I let you go. The one of them would be if there is somebody watching that could be a potential client of Spherity, what would you tell them?
Think it's a lot of fun working with us. We know your business. We would like to make a difference to improve the state of your industry in terms of transitioning to circular, much more sustainable business. And so with I think with our solutions, people have kind of, let's say, a super short lead time, which means we don't need months, kind of, let's say, to implement something. We can do it in a week. We actually did kind of an implementation of a battery passport with a commercial vehicle supplier in 1 week. Yeah. So it's very, very fast. We can deliver impact and solutions and business case in a very short time frame. We usually start with value discovery, and from our perspective, it's about partnering in terms of delivering business value for your industry. In terms of partnering, building some digital solutions, improving your supply chain, reducing costs, automating your processes, and really partnering in terms of having a joint common objective, and working on high speed. So we're looking for partners that are going for speed and making decisions fast and implementing stuff fast, and that's a bit what we're looking for. Yeah.
I like it. Speed is one of my core business philosophies.
Yes.
Things
Yes.
delivered fast. I think we live in an age that's too fast to afford slow solutions.
Absolutely. And what we observe, so I'm German, I really would like to make kind of Germany more successful. I think we have a lot of good inventors in Germany. Huge amount of technology is invented, but then kind of the transition from invention to a viable product, yeah. I think speed, more risk taking, more courage. This is super important kind of to go the next steps, yeah. And and speed is one of them. So usually when we work with big corporates, it takes some things take a year. I think that's so we measure progress in a year. So we just have done a project with the Eastern European customer,
Mhm.
and we did it in a week. So it could be done in a week. And that's the mindset we need. That's the partners we need that are going super fast in terms of trust. So we do it affordable, we do it fast. We kind of focus on the business value realization, but kind of to do it fast, to take some risks instead of kind of doing just another research project, coming up just with another research questions, and then we're measuring time even in 5 years and not in a week. What we have achieved with this Eastern European partner, I think we need to be much more pragmatic, to focus on much more pace in our business relationships and value delivery, to be successful. Otherwise, staying competitive is difficult if you don't have the pace and the speed, and that's a critical success factor going forward.
Agree. It's a fast market.
Yeah.
Final question. Do you have an unpopular opinion about the industry, about technology, about whatever you decide that you stand by?
Yeah, first of all, maybe let's say on a micro perspective, the digital product passports are really a key enabler for staying competitive, for digitizing our supply chains. What I like a lot about digital product passports, and they will definitely come. So we have seen some Gartner, which is a research company, Gartner predictions. They say that in some industries, between 5 and 20% are starting to adopt the technology. That's a very nice technology. It's not a compliance technology. I forgot to say this. There are always two sides of a coin. Compliance is one side, but kind of using the same technology for customer engagement, yeah. So providing a digital mean that as via an object, a product, a customer can communicate with the brand, yeah. This is unique. This is new because today a brand is selling products to a wholesaler, to retailer, and then the retailer knows the end customer. The end customer is out of the shop, is gone, yeah. But when people start to interact with the digital version of a product, and the brand is a direct to customer communication channel, and this is really reshaping marketing, yeah. You can do a lot of seasonal promotions. You can do a lot of, let's say, referral marketing, share your look on social media, kind of, let's say, extending the reach, the brand reach of your product. You can combine it with incentives, with lotteries. We have done a business case. If you provide digital identity to your product and there's a digital value add of your product, yeah, the number of returns can be reduced, product returns can be reduced by 10 to 20%. Reducing the number of returns, it's low-hanging fruit in terms of a circular economy, because then I have less waste and I have less products that are going back in circles, no one uses them, and then they're put in a waste bin. I think so. You can combine it, compliance, customer engagement, increasing your brand reach, cross-selling, upselling, seasonal promotion. You can do a lot of fantastic things on a product marketing side. Plus, if you do it in a proper way, you reduce the number of returns, then you have immediate gain in terms of circularity, in terms of environmental impact immediately. Yeah. So this is what we like. In addition, digital product passports. If you look more sophisticated product, cars, IoT, industrial products, then it comes also to value-added services. Yeah. So you have more kind of sustainable products, but when you have digital identity, you can connect to the brand, to the manufacturer. They can do predictive maintenance, and they can extend the lifetime of your product, the usage, utilization of your product. And even, this is what we are building with some of our customers, we can kind of plug in a real-time value of a product, real-time value of a car, of a battery. And this is important because when you have real-time value of a battery, then you can decide, am I putting my battery on a second life market? You know, because it's in super good shape. I treated it properly. I didn't recharge it to 100 times or 1,000 times. I never operated it or did fast charging under minus 10 degrees Celsius, because that's all kind of degrading kind of the health of your product. So if I have done it properly, my battery, my product has a higher value. I put it in a second life market. It can help stabilize power grids, whatever. It can be used to store solar energy in a smart home and so on. So I think so putting this, but then also putting in a digital product, yeah. Recycling options. Should I recycle it? Should I remanufacture it? Should I refurbish it? Yeah. So, for example, a lot of big companies, they don't have refurbishment strategies. Yeah. Phone companies with no refurbishment strategy. I think this is evil. And if you look what I think it's a Dutch company, Refurb, they're kind of taking phones back from the market, refurbishing them, second life use, third life use, extending the utilization, keeping raw materials and products in our supply chains and reducing waste. This is pretty good. And you can build in your product refurbishment strategy. You can build in remanufacturing, like it's completely, let's say I do something else with it, or recycling, that I know how to recycle it, in which recycling platforms, that with lowest amount of energy recycling is being done, with the maximum amount of material I put out of the product I'm recycling. And that's basically the type of technology we are working with. And so compliance, circularity, customer engagement, huge business case, short term. You can easily fund it with your marketing budget. I think people have 100,000 millions of marketing budget. Our technology is a tiny fraction of this. For that reason, it's affordable from your marketing budget, kind of to increase the brand reach, do cross-selling, upselling, and on the value-added services to basically bring digitization, product proposition on the next level. With value-added services, you can do a lot of this, and this is what we believe and see a bright future of the technology we are developing and promoting.
Thank you. Listen, final one, very final. Where can people find you, and where can people find out more about Spherity?
Oh, you find us on www.spherity.com, or you find me on LinkedIn, Carsten Stöcker at Spherity, or from Spherity. You find me on LinkedIn, or let's say on our internet homepage. This is where you find me, but you can also find me in person. So we are participating in a lot of industry events, Industry for All. So we are working on a European identity wallet. We are working on European Identity Wallet Consortium. So we are participating in Catena X. We are participating in an energy ecosystem, which is called Energy Data X. So I mentioned it's an ecosystem technology, the taxpayers, let's say, investing money so that ecosystem can develop their huge projects. And we are basically, or my colleagues and I are basically active, very active in these ecosystems. Yeah.
You heard it, people. Carsten, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. To all of you listening, don't forget to follow the podcast if you are on Spotify, to follow the channel if you're on YouTube. We need to grow, so please hit the like button too. It helps a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, just go find out Spherity at their website, go find Carsten on LinkedIn, and find me on LinkedIn posting also about this episode next week or one of the weeks after, depending on the schedule. But yes, thank you so much for listening, Carsten. Thanks again for being here. And people, see you next
Sebastian,
week.
it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show, and I wish all our listeners, a lot of success with transitioning our society for the better state of the world. Yeah, to
That's a
contribute to
beautiful
this.
message.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful message. I completely join in that sentiment. So, people, this was the Tech of Tomorrow with Sebastian Hidalgo and today, Carsten Stocker. See you next week for the next episode.